Well, hi students. I'm lucky to have with me today a visiting scholar from overseas. This is Catherine Pachowski from CQUniversity and my colleague Trudy Atkinson, who works in CQU and is at Noosa. And the three of us have just listened to a story in song. And you guys will get the chance to listen to it too. But I just wanted to maybe ask you guys, how did you feel when you first heard that song?
Go for it. I think that I felt sad for the narrator. Sad for the narrator and sad for the person that she's describing. I think that, I don't want to get too much into future questions, but I think there's, the narrator is describing not only the burden that the person is experiencing, but also the burden it places on the narrator themselves. Yeah, and sort of it's an experience of having sort of a new perspective on something. So and it's an uncomfortable perspective.
Right. So what I hear you saying is that she is looking at this person. Oh, yes, it's a female singer. So she's looking at this other person, and she's wondering about the burden that she has to bear.
That's right.
And she's thinking about her own perceptions of that person.
Yeah, and how that reflects on her as well, right? How that what sort of reactions she has in response to what she sees in the
So
person.
it's a two-way encounter.
It is.
It's an interpretation of someone else.
It is. That's
How did you feel, Trudy?
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it, with that dual dynamic? I kind of went through a bit of a journey of emotions myself. They changed. So from the beginning, listening to the narrator, I thought she summed up the way a lot of society in general approaches people with mental health challenges, and that's from the outside looking in, and almost from a position of sympathy. Oh, that poor person over there. And she said, it makes us angry though we feign to care. And there is sometimes, I think, in caring roles, that distance. Yet there are other parts where I saw she really actually connected and was curious about what the experience was genuinely like for the person with the challenge.
Right.
And
so can I just interrupt you there, Trudy? You said there's a line in the song where she says, it made us all angry though we failed to care.
Feigned to care.
And you looked on this song as if it was a person with a mental health challenge. The character in the story is a person with a mental health challenge, is your assumption, I guess.
I did, yes.
Me too, actually. But, so you thought that was indicative of a lot of people's feelings, is that right?
I think when we're teaching in this space with mental health, and I guess that's why I'm coming from that lens, I do see that happens a lot. And one of the things that through story we have the opportunity to do is to not impose our interpretation of a story onto somebody else, but be curious to find out what is the meaning in the story from the person.
So what do you think the meaning in the story is?
What is the meaning of the story? Well, I just sort of wanted to bounce off something you had said too. Something that I really stood out for me was just the loneliness of the burden of the person, not the narrator, but the person who has maybe the mental illness or whatever experience. But again, just the fact that society's putting the burden on her, and while other people might drift in and out, at the end of the day, she has to carry that. Or that character has to carry that. And so maybe what the meaning of the story is for me is just again shining a mirror on what is society doing to people who are have a mental illness or have some struggle that the rest of us are uncomfortable dealing with.
So it raises the question.
It raises the question
rather than brings down any answer. Okay, good one. Now I just wanted to ask you, just in general, about narratives being used to either teach students or narratives being used in therapeutic situations. Have you guys ever used narrative to teach students?
Okay. Absolutely, all the time. And I think that I find that narrative storytelling is one of my most effective tools. I think it's the one that I connect the best with students when I'm telling stories. And students respond the most, and they seem to, or they tell me that they learn more from that than any other situation that I'm in. So I find that that's very effective. And in my clinical practice too, I know that it should be used cautiously, but again, it's a very effective way at sort of forming a bond. There's sort of something human about telling a story, right? So I find that is very effective.
So, Catherine, you said it should be used cautiously in the clinical situation. What did you mean?
And I don't know if this is my bias just coming from my own training. I mean, we talk about when we share stories with people, at least sort of from where I'm from and the training that I received, we sort of have to ask ourselves, why am I telling a story? Am I telling a story to help the person that I'm with, or am I telling the story to somehow help myself? Take a burden off my own chest, for example. And I don't want to tell stories for that. I don't want to tell stories to make my own life feel better or to make me comfortable in a situation like this.
One of the things that I'm trying to do in this course is to distinguish story from narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways narrative is different from story is that narrative involves the process of telling a story, and listening to a story, and then also sharing the story. So when we talk about narratives being used in a therapeutic situation, we're not necessarily just talking about a nurse or a clinician telling a story to a client or consumer. We're talking about maybe listening to their story,
Exactly.
or even having conversations around stories such as this song.
That's right.
So Trudy, have you ever thought about using song in a therapeutic or helping situation?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think it's like anything. As humans, we're all unique and we're all different. We all respond to things differently, and some people might be really drawn to visual stimulus. So a painting might really inspire them and allow them to open up and share things comfortably. Likewise, a story that's told through song might evoke emotions in the hearing of the song in general, as opposed to just reading the lyrics on a page. And so that might open the door to different kinds of conversations, like you said, not necessarily just what was the meaning, but how did it make you feel and why. So it can be really powerful, I think.
Great, thank you. So, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close?
I just wanted to say, and again, just sort of to feed off what you were talking about, one of the things as I was listening to the song and thinking about it, the same words can have so many different meanings to different people, and I think that that's where narrative is so powerful, because I would ask a person who had a very different interpretation of this, why? Where does that come from? What were the words that stood out for you? And that really starts the conversation.
Right, so it's a conversation starter.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.